Am I audible to everybody now? Okay, so good evening to all of you and good evening to all those who have joined us online. So friends, in the last class, we understood the basics of constitution. We understood what is a constitution. We also understood the different types of constitutions, and we also understood what is constitutionalism. Okay, so we will carry forward the story from there. And the first question that we will ask ourselves today in the class is that what gives legitimacy or you can say what gives authority to a constitution when the constitution will be accepted by the people. Because if you frame a constitution, you implement that constitution, but it is not accepted by the people, what is the use of such kind of a constitution? Will there be any use of such kind of a constitution? It wouldn't be of any use. So what gives legitimacy or authority or what gives sanctity to a constitution? Let's try to begin our class from asking ourselves this question. Okay, so give a heading, just give a heading in your notes and write in the form of a question. You give the heading, right? What gives legitimacy or authority to any constitution? What gives legitimacy or authority? Or authority to any constitution. Okay, now drop your pen and look here very carefully. There could be several factors that give authority or legitimacy or acceptability of any constitution. We will highlight 4 important factors here, and they will encompass more or less the other subsidiary factors as well. The first one is that how it was promulgated. It means the mode of promulgation. Now, what do you mean by promulgation? When it is officially announced, that is promulgation. Do you understand that? When it is officially executed, that is promulgation. So, how was the mode of promulgation? Whether the constitution was created by a dictator who wanted to rule the country at his whims and fancies, and he incorporated in the constitution everything that ensures his power will be retained, but no rights will be given to the people. Do you think people will accept that kind of constitution in the long run? No. In the short run, they might accept it because of the fear of the dictator, but in the long run, they will definitely rise in rebellion against such kind of a constitution. Do you understand that? Whereas, if the constitution is created by the people through representatives or directly, like the Indian constitution is created by the people, because what does the preamble say? We the people of India, and it ends as give to ourselves this constitution. So when the constitution is created by the people through representatives who had gathered in an independent constituent assembly, then the people will accept the constitution. Do you understand that? So what gives authority to a constitution is from where it is deriving its power. First factor, if it is deriving its power from the people, then people will generally accept such kind of a constitution. If it is deriving its power from a dictator, then people might not accept the clauses of such kind of a constitution if the constitution is oppressive and suppressive. It is destroying the liberties of the people, if that's the case. Do you understand that? So the first factor is the mode of promulgation. The second is whether the constitution can establish the values in the society. Like say, for example, would you like to live in a society which is unequal? Would you like to live in a society where you have no liberty? Would you like to live in a society where there is no justice? There has to be some sense of justice prevailing in the society. There has to be institutions of justice which deliver justice. There has to be authorities who hear your case and deliver justice. all of that can be ensured only through a fair constitution. Do you understand that? An organization, a company can also have its constitution. Similarly, the country can have its own constitution. That is the biggest constitution. Do you understand that? Of all the constitutions that we have. So the second factor is that whether it can establish the values in the society. Let's compare a scenario. Consider there are two countries. Let's call them country A and country B. In country A, the constitution creates a distinction between the rulers and the ordinary citizens in terms of criminal law implementation. Like say for example, if somebody from the ruling clan commits a crime, there is very slight punishment. But for the same crime committed by an ordinary man, there is severe punishment. In fact, this is what happened in several societies in the past, when the royalty had different kind of punishment and the ordinary people had different kind of punishment. Do you get it? Would you like to live in this kind of a country if you are an ordinary man? Maybe if you are a ruler, you would like to live because that gives you certain kind of privilege. But if you are an ordinary man, definitely you are not going to like this kind of an arrangement. What does not exist in this society? Equality before the law does not exist in this kind of society. And equality is a value. Do you understand that? So what are the values? Values could be equality, liberty, fraternity, justice. These are all values. Do you understand that? And all of them, are they reflected in the preamble of the Indian Constitution? Yes. So Indian Constitution is created by the people. Also, it is a value document. Value document means it tries to establish values in the society. Do you get it? Consider another country, country B, where everybody is equal before the law and nobody is above the law. Law is the king. In old societies, king was the law. Do you understand that? But in modern democratic societies, law is the king. That establishes what? Equality before the law. So there is equality before the law, equality of status, equality of opportunity. Would you like to live in that kind of a country? Yes. Suppose in this country, if the ruling party or the government of the day is doing something wrong, and if you raise your voice against the government, government shoots you down. Suppose it calls in police and shoots you down or detains you. Would you like to live in that kind of a country now? Whereas in this country, what happens is that you may have the right to criticize the government as well, if you are not happy with any policy of the government. And criticism is not always negative, it can be positive as well. Do you understand that? This is what? This is nothing but freedom of speech. So if you do not have freedom of speech, would you like to live in that country? No. Article 19 clause 1 subclause A of the Indian Constitution guarantees to all the citizens what? Freedom of speech. But your freedom of speech, does that give you the right to destroy the rights of others or defame anybody? No. That's one thing that you have to keep in mind, that it is a right given to you. So you have to exercise it very carefully with responsibility. Then only you are a responsible citizen. Do you understand that? So we want to live in a society where there is equality, where there is liberty. Suppose there is no economic justice or social justice. Suppose there is crime against women, and if a case is registered, the criminal is not punished. Would you like to live in that kind of a society if you are a woman? You would not like to live in that kind of a society. Do you understand that? Therefore, equality, fraternity, liberty, justice, these are what? Values. And without values, you create a baseless society. With values, you create a civilized society, which is helpful for everybody. It also fulfills your socio-economic and political aspirations. Because suppose you want to form a political party. For that, you should have what? First, liberty to form that political party. If the government of the day says that you cannot form a political party of your own, आप आज यूपीएससी की तैयारी करना चाहते हैं सिविल सर्विसेज एग्जामिनेशन की, तो आप कर पा रहे हैं ना? गवर्नमेंट आपको रोकती है क्या आके? Do you understand that? अगर गवर्नमेंट रोकने लग जाए आपको और ये बोले कि नहीं आप ये नहीं करेंगे आप कुछ दूसरा करेंगे, then that is tinkering with your liberty. Do you get it? So the second factor that gives legitimacy or authority to any constitution, apart from the mode of promulgation, is that whether the constitution is a value document or not. It establishes values in the society or not, and through these values, does it creates the space for the fulfillment of the aspirations of the people. Do you get it? The third factor is the institutional design. Now, what do we mean by institutional design? We mean that how the organs of the government or the institutions under the government are created, whether they are fair or foul. Do you understand that? Whether they are fair or they are unfair institutions. And is all the power concentrated in the hand of one institution, or power is well distributed between the institutions so that if one institution goes wrong, other institution can pull it. Do you get it? Like say for example, in the olden days we know that there was a king or a monarch who had all the powers and did whatever he or she wanted to do. The king or the queen, whatever he or she wanted to do, they did, and people had no remedy against it. It means all the powers. It means lawmaking power, judicial power, also the executive power. The king was the head of the government. The king was the highest appointing authority. King would declare war. King would conclude war. King would also dismiss the authorities. King's word was law, and king was the highest court of appeal. Now, if that happens in any society, if you get a good king, then it's very good time for the people. But if you get a cruel king, then it will be disastrous situation for the people. Do you understand that? That's why modern governments or modern constitutions have incorporated an idea called separation of powers that we'll talk about later on. But the whole thing is that power will not be concentrated in one institution. Rather, there will be three wings of government. What are these three wings of government? Executive, legislature and judiciary. This we have seen in the last class. So, executive का काम क्या है? To execute the laws. Legislature का काम क्या है? To make the laws. Judiciary का काम क्या है? To give justice in the light of the laws. Do you get it? So, executive, legislature and judiciary have their own defined space. Can the judges make law? Can the ministers sit in court and give justice? No. It means there is limitation on everybody's power. Are you understanding it? So, that is the design, fair design of the institutions. So, if the constitution has a fair institutional design, do you think it will have more acceptability among the people? If it is unfair institutional design and all the powers are concentrated in the hands of one entity, be it an individual or institution, and if that institution or individual goes rogue or goes corrupt, then it will be doomsday for the people. Do you get it? That's why the third factor that gives legitimacy or authority to any constitution is the institutional design. Do you get it? And fourth is that whether it can accommodate the future changes or aspirations. When the constitution came into existence in 1949 and then when it was implemented in 1950, were the Indians thinking about landing on moon at that time or going to Mars? They were thinking about the next meal. Do you understand that? So, whenever constitutions are made, although they are made by keeping in mind all the future requirements, they cannot apprehend everything that might unfold in future. Like nobody knew in 1950 something called internet, something like space, power or renewable energy or something like that. But constitution should provide the space so that future aspirations of the people could be accommodated. And how is that possible? By making the possibility of making changes in the constitution, which is nothing but amendment of the constitution. Like say for example, we had so many indirect taxes, service tax, custom, ye, wo, bahut kuch tha. All has been replaced and we are talking about now one country, one indirect tax, which is nothing but the goods and services tax. Now you must be also knowing about there is a discussion going on one country, one election. That is also possible by making an amendment to the constitution. So if the people in future in a particular country decide that this is the direction of our country. They should have the ability to make the changes in the constitution to take the country in that direction through their representatives. For that, the constitution itself should be flexible. If the constitution is rigid, then what would happen? People will lose their faith in it. Suppose there is a very strong stick, it is very rigid, and you are a manufacturer of a chair, you are a carpenter, and you try to use that because you want to bend the stick to give a curve in the chair. And if you try to bend the stick does not bend. If you try to do it more, what would happen? It will break and then you will throw it away. Will you use that? No. Similarly, if the constitution becomes too rigid, they cannot provide any space for future accommodation of the aspirations of the people, or it does not give a simple procedure for amendment, then people of future will lose faith in that constitution. That is what has happened in several countries all around the world. Future generations have lost faith in the constitution, they have thrown away the constitution and enacted a new constitution. But thanks to the vision of the makers of the Indian constitution, that Indian constitution has been amended more than 100 times. किसी को भी कोई ग्रीवेंस होता है तो वो यही कहते हैं कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में अमेंडमेंट करेंगे, पर कोई ये नहीं कहता कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ही हटा देंगे. Do you understand that? That shows the power of Indian constitution. Are you understanding this? So these are the 4 factors that determine the legitimacy or authority of a constitution. कि constitution चलेगा या नहीं चलेगा. पहला, mode of promulgation. कोई dictator ने बनाया है या किसी constituent assembly ने बनाया जहां लोगों ने खुद decide करके उसको बनाया हो. Values in the society, वो establish करता है कि नहीं constitution. Like, does the constitution create a fair society which has equality, liberty, justice, fraternity, these kind of values or not? Then जो institutions है उनमें क्या है, separation of powers है या सारा power concentrated है एक ही institution. और चौथा कि क्या वो constitution इतना अच्छा है कि उसको future में amend किया जा सकता है for accommodating the needs of the future generations. All of this give what? Legitimacy or authority to any constitution. यहाँ तक बताओ, बात clear है? Is it clear to everybody? All those who are attending online, I hope it is clear. So let's write down few points now. Write one opening statement. Yes, go on dear. Yes, like say for example, suppose you are reviewing a movie, okay, and in the movie what you are doing is you are finding everything wrong with that movie, though that can happen with a particular movie. But how is your tone of criticism? Whether you are criticizing the movie because you hate the movie makers or the subject of the movie, or you are criticizing because you understand the science of movie making and you are suggesting changes in the movie which will benefit the audience in the long run. That would be positive criticism. Do you understand that, dear? Like suppose somebody is preparing for the civil services examination and members in the family say कि आप मेहनत नहीं कर रहे हो ठीक से, आपको और मेहनत करनी चाहिए, आंसर राइटिंग और करो. So this is all what? Positive criticism. लेकिन कोई अगर ये बोले अरे तुमसे नहीं हो पाएगा, मत करो, छोड़ दो, that is negative criticism because that is breaking your spirit. Did you get that, dear? Is that thing clear now? Okay, please write down. So write down. The success of any constitution depends upon the following. The success of any constitution depends upon the following. After that you put a hyphen. Depends upon the following. Put a hyphen. And then write as 1, 2, 3, 4. First, change the ink for this. Mode of promulgation. Mode of promulgation. Mode of promulgation. Now, under this, you write bullet wise. First bullet. This refers to how a constitution. This refers to how a constitution came into existence. This refers to how a constitution came into existence. Put a full stop. In many countries, the constitution remains. In many countries, the constitution remains defunct. Defunct का मतलब defunctional, defunct, because they are crafted by, despotic military leaders, despotic military leaders, despotic military leaders. Do you remember the term despotic regime, where there would be a dictator who would rule the country as per his whims or fancies? So despotic military leaders or dictators, who do not enjoy popularity and support of the people, who do not enjoy popularity or support of the people. Okay, now hold on. Tell me this. If a dictator makes a constitution and in that constitution gives all the rights to himself and gives no rights to the people, in that constitution he incorporates a clause wherein he says that the state can tax the people whenever it feels like for national purpose. And for taxing the people, there will be no requirement for making a law. Do you think people will accept that in the long run? And the rate of taxation could be anything, like 100% of your income will be taxed. Will the people accept that? So what kind of constitution survive? That has popular support. Popular support means people's support. ठीक है? देखो next bullet इसी point के अंदर. The successful constitutions are generally created. The successful constitutions are generally created with the will of the people, through popular leaders, who carry the mandate of the people, to create the constitution, who carry the mandate of the people to create the constitution. अच्छा एक बात बताओ, the Constituent Assembly of India, which created the Constitution of India, did it have popular leaders or they were unpopular? They were all national heroes because they fought for the freedom of the country. तो जनरली आप देखोगे सक्सेसफुल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशंस किन्होंने बनाया है? जो फ्रीडम फाइटर्स हैं, चाहे वो इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हो या अमेरिकन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. रिमेंबर थॉमस जेफरसन, जॉर्ज वॉशिंगटन, इन सब ने लड़ाई लड़ी थी अगेंस्ट द इंग्लिश किंग, so that they wanted to create a country of their own. So write down, continue that point and write, these popular leaders are generally those, who have worked for freedom and justice, freedom and justice. For example, the Constitution of India and Republic of South Africa. For example, the Constitution of India and Republic of South Africa. तो अभी तक हमने बस ये समझा that how the mode of promulgation impacts the acceptability of a constitution. Let's write the second one now. Second, you write construction of a fair society. Construction of a fair society. Construction of a fair society. Okay, what do you think? Will the society be fair if it is valueless? It will be fair only when it is filled with values. In fact, Your friendships are also valueless if it does not have any value. Do you understand that? They are unfair friendships. So write down, write bullet wise under that. A constitution that preserves the basic liberties of the people. A constitution that preserves the basic liberties of the people and promotes equality among them has a greater chance of success. Next bullet, constitutions that deliver social, economic and political justice. Constitutions that deliver social, economic and political justice enjoy the support of the masses. Political justice enjoy the support of the masses. Support of the masses, इसका क्या मतलब है? Support of the people. Next bullet, the Indian Constitution not only promotes equality of status and opportunity, but also offers the basic freedoms, like freedom of speech, expression, belief, faith and worship. Okay, put a full stop and continue that point. It also promotes common brotherhood. Or fraternity. Among all Indians. Therefore, it gets the support of the people. Got it? So let's move to the third one now. Right? Give the heading third, balanced institutional design. Under this you write bullet wise. First bullet, well crafted constitutions. Crafted means well designed. Well crafted constitutions do not allow the concentration of power. In one institution or person. Put a full stop. Good constitutions divide the powers of government into different organs of the government. After that, you write this whiz dot. means namely, with dot and continue writing executive, legislature and judiciary. Executive, legislature and judiciary. Next bullet, concentration of power in one institution. Concentration of power in one institution or person. Concentration of power in one institution or person can monopolize power, which may not be always good, for social comfort, or economic well-being, Put a full stop. If a single institution, put a comma, that has all the power, put a comma again, goes corrupt, the entire society will suffer. Got it? So if suppose all the power means executive power, legislative power and judicial power, military power, administrative power, jitne bhi power ho sakta, all of that is concentrated, diplomatic powers, in one man, and if that man is very good, then the society will rejoice. If the man is a corrupt, cruel man, then the society will suffer. And if we look at history, do we have majority of great rulers or majority of bad rulers? Bad rulers. There are few greats here and there and far spaced between them. Do you understand that? So that's why a guarantee of the continuation of the rights is having the power divided into different organs and not allowing power to concentrate in one entity. More of it when we go to the theory of separation of powers and the doctrine of checks and balances. Okay, let's write the fourth one. Give a heading, accommodation of future aspirations of the people. Accommodation of the future aspirations of the people. अच्छा समझ लो, आप घर बना रहे हो, जब घर बनाया जाता है तो आपको क्या लगता है, वो आज के लिए बनाया जाता है या फ्यूचर के लिए बनाया जाता है? आप फोन भी खरीदते हो तो क्या सोचकर खरीदते हो कि इसको कल फेंक दूंगा? आप यही सोचते हो ना कि थोड़े दिन तो चले, ये कुछ दिनों तक चले. आप चप्पल भी खरीदते हो तो यही सोचकर खरीदते हो. Do you understand that? So if your minor purchases also have this feeling, this is a big decision in life. Do you understand that? That whether I want to be party to this constitution or not. So when constitutions are made, they are always made by keeping future in mind. You get it? But at a point in time, we cannot apprehend all the problems of the future. क्योंकि हमें पता ही नहीं है फ्यूचर के प्रॉब्लम्स क्या हो सकते हैं. आज से 200 साल बाद क्या हो सकता है, आपको पता है क्या? आज से 100 साल पहले आप चले जाओ और लोगों को बोलो कि देयर विल बी टच स्क्रीन फोन्स एंड देयर विल बी वायरलेस कनेक्टिविटी, इंटरनेट विल बी विदाउट वायर्स, तो वो कहेंगे कि बस इनको अब हटा दो यहाँ से, इनका दिमागी संतुलन जो है वो खराब होने लगा है. आज से 300 साल पहले तो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी भी नहीं थी, कहीं नहीं थी, पूरी दुनिया में नहीं थी. Do you understand that? और इलेक्ट्रिसिटी एक लग्जरी हुआ करती थी. जब बिजली, अगर आप देखोगे कई गांवों में आती है अभी जब, तो कुछ घरों में होती है बिजली, एंड इट्स अ लग्जरी. इलेक्ट्रिसिटी वाज अ लग्जरी, बट टुडे इज इट अ लग्जरी? इट इज अ नेसेसिटी. इफ यू आर स्टेइंग इन दिल्ली और जून जुलाई में लाइट चली जाए तो आप उठ जाओगे, सो भी नहीं पाओगे. इट्स अ नेसेसिटी नाउ. Do you get it? So हो सकता है इंटरनेट, हाई स्पीड इंटरनेट now is a luxury for you, but for future generations it will be necessary. So constitution should provide that space so that amendments could be made to the constitution to accommodate the needs of the future generation. If the constitutions do not provide that space, then such constitution will not be accepted by the future generations, and such constitutions will lose their value. Do you get it? So under this, you write bullet wise. First bullet, a constitution must take into account, a constitution must take into account the future aspirations of the people, future aspirations of the people. Put a full stop. If a constitution becomes too rigid, if a constitution becomes too rigid, in bracket you can write immune to amendments, immune to amendments, close the bracket, immune to amendments, close the bracket, put a comma, people will lose their confidence in it, people will lose their confidence in it. Next bullet, all successful constitutions provide, all successful constitutions provide an adequate space for accommodating, provide an adequate space for accommodating future aspirations of the people, future aspirations of the people through amendments, through amendments. Next bullet, you write, more than 100 amendments have been made to the Indian Constitution. More than 100 amendments have been made to the Indian Constitution. And it only proves that, the makers of the Indian Constitution had a vision for future. Makers of the Indian Constitution had a vision for future. Okay. Now, remember, I told you in the class that whenever I will use the word state in the class, what would that indicate? Nation state. Because for states, I will use the term states. Do you understand that? But there is a thing called state on one hand and another thing called nation on the other hand. So let's try to understand the difference between nation and state, and also what is the meaning of nation states. Do you get it? So that will be the next thing that we will be discussing in the class. So give a heading, meaning of state. Meaning of state. Political justice by giving you freedom of speech and expression. You can go out and vote. You can also contest the elections. You can go to the parliament. That is political justice to you. It is not secured for a privileged section of people, but anybody can enter the parliament. Economic justice, you can carry out any profession subject to law and morality of the society. Obviously, you cannot become a drug dealer, obviously, but all the permissible professions you can do that. That is economic justice. Social justice, there will not be untouchability against you. If there is untouchability against you, you can go to the Supreme Court of India and get a writ in your favor and enforce your right of not to be distinguished. You understand that? That's social justice. Clear? So let's try to understand the meaning of this thing, state. Drop your pen and look here very carefully. Okay, this is a very important concept and it requires some kind of understanding. The word state is derived from the Latin word status or the French word estate, and it literally means a position or condition. Do you get it? Now, what is a state? If we have to come to a workable definition of this thing, a state is, it is an association of people by law. Now this line is very important. Keep this thing in mind. State is an association of people by law. It is not an emotional bonding. It is a legal bond. Do you understand that? Who live in a particular geographical area. Under an organized government and that government should be free from external control. It means the government should be sovereign. The word sovereign means that there is no external control over you. Do you get it? So what is a state? State is an association of people living in a particular geographical area under a sovereign government. Do you understand that? If all these conditions are fulfilled, it is designated as state. तो अगर आप इस definition को देखोगे तो आपको समझ में आ जाएगा that there are 4 conditions and they have to be fulfilled and then it becomes a state. First is it should have a population of its own. Association of people is nothing but population. Do you understand that? And how it is held together? By law. Do you understand that? Second, it should have territory. Geographical area means territory. Third, it should have an organized government. Organized government means there is well defined government structure, like divided into different ministries or divided into different wings of the government like judiciary, executive, legislature, ministers, officers, etc. Undefined government, unorganized government could be like how it happened in the early days of the early man. Do you understand that? वो unorganized government हो गया वो. And fourth, there should be sovereignty. ये चारों चीजें होनी चाहिए तभी you become a state. Do you get it? So if a group of people have a territory of their own and a government of their own which is free from external control, they become a state. Is India a state? India has association of people, Indians, they have a territory of their own. What about government? Yes. And are we sovereign? So obviously the preamble also tells us sovereign democratic republic ऐसे ही होता है ना. So write down. जो आपने लिखा है मीनिंग ऑफ स्टेट, इसके नीचे एक सब हेडिंग डालो पहले, origin of the word state. Let's write something about it first. Origin of the word state. Put state into single inverted commas. Origin of the word state. The term state is derived from the Latin word status. Status. Status का मतलब ही position होता है. Status. or the French word estate or estate, meaning position or condition, meaning position or condition. Now देखो, during the time of ancient Greece, a single city was a state, and these states were known as city states. Like Athens was a state in itself, but Athens is actually just a city. Do you understand that? Socrates, Aristotle, they all lived where? In Athens. Do you understand that? In Greece. So the Greek people, they used to call such city states as polis. और आज जो मॉडर्न वर्ड यूज होता है आपने सुना होगा, मेगापोलिस, मेट्रोपोलिस, ये सब यहीं से निकल कर है, ठीक है. दिस इज व्हाट द ग्रीक्स called their city states as polis, whereas the Romans, they called their states as civitas. Do you get it? So this is also vital critical information. Let's jot that down. Next bullet, you write, the Greeks used to use the word, polis to indicate, use the word polis, put the word polis into single inverted commas and change the ink also for these keywords. The Greeks used the word polis to indicate city states, while the Romans used the term civitas, for state. देखो, the word state, it was always in use, but there is one man who popularized the usage of this word, and his name is Niccolo Machiavelli. Who is this man? He is an Italian philosopher, diplomat, historian, and also a kind of statesman. He is the Kautilya of the West. ऐसे समझ कर दो. He is the Chanakya of the West. He wrote a book, और उस book का नाम था The Prince, where he has highlighted how the prince should be and the relationship between prince and people, prince and state. Do you understand that? There the word state came into reference on several occasions, and that's why the word got popularity in the world. ठीक है? But उससे पहले क्या terms use होते थे? Civitas, polis, ऐसी चीजें. ठीक है? लिखो. Next point. It was Niccolo Machiavelli. वैसे तो इनका पूरा नाम है निकोलो दे बर्नार्डो दे मैकियावेली, बट ये याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं, सिर्फ मैकियावेली भी याद रखोगे तो काफी. So right, it was Niccolo Machiavelli, put a comma, an Italian diplomat, author, philosopher, and historian. Author, philosopher, and historian, who used the word state. In the modern sense. Use the word state in the modern sense. In his famous work, put a hyphen and write in double inverted commas, the prince. ठीक है? तो इसमें तो ये क्लियर हो गया हमको how the word originated. Now let's define what a state is. And what is a state? It has to fulfill 4 conditions. What are they? Population, territory, government and sovereignty. Okay, it becomes a state. So give a small subheading, definition of state. Definition of state, and put state into single inverted commas. Definition of state. Now under this, write bullet wise. First bullet, the term state refers to, the term state refers to an association of people, refers to an association of people by law. People by law, put a comma, living within a definite, living within a definite geographical area, living within a definite geographical area under an organized government, geographical area under an organized government that is subject to, no outside control, that is subject to no outside control. Now look here, the state is the highest political and social institution. Do you understand that? Highest political institution is the state itself, and highest social institution is also the state itself, because it has an angle of population, it has an angle of government, so it becomes the highest social as well as the political institution. Write down next point. State is the highest political and social institution. State is the highest political and social institution. To ensure safety and security of the people. To ensure safety and security of the people. And maintain harmonious social relations. अच्छा एक बात बताओ, man is a social animal or a political animal? He is both. Do you understand that? Can we live without politics? देखो कई बार क्या होता है, पॉपुलर मीडिया यूजेस दिस वर्ड्स इन सच लूज मैनर कि आपके दिमाग में एक मीनिंग बैठ जाती है, पॉलिटिक्स मतलब नेगेटिव ही होगा. एक बात बताओ, जब कंट्री में फ्रीडम मूवमेंट चल रहा था तो पॉलिटिक्स हो रही थी या नहीं हो रही थी? दैट वाज कंस्ट्रक्टिव पॉलिटिक्स. You understand that? If you go out and vote, is that politics or not? Yes. What kind of politics? Constructive politics. Do you understand that? So I hope all of you are aware about this great man Aristotle, who is also called as the father of political science. He said one thing, man is a social animal, but by nature he is a political being. ठीक है? और उसके दोनों चीजों को फुलफिल करने के लिए क्या चाहिए उसको? स्टेट. समझ आया? देखो नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. Write in double inverted commas, it's a quote by Aristotle, man is a social animal and by nature, man is a social animal and by nature he is a political being. Man is a social animal and by nature he is a political being. Unquote. Put a hyphen and write Aristotle. Aristotle. Put a full stop after that. Okay, you tell me one thing. Is it the duty of the state to create a healthy environment for the people where people can live peacefully and grow themselves? Yes. Kautilya says the first duty of the state is to protect its borders so that there is no threat to the people living inside. And that's why he advocates for a strong army. Do you get it? So write down, continuation, in continuation of that point you write, state creates a healthy environment for the people. State creates a healthy environment for the people. So that they can pursue their socio-economic and political aspirations, without violating the laws of the land. Okay, you tell me one thing, that how are you so sure that from here when you will go back to home, nobody will kill you? How are you so sure about it? Every day you move out of your houses very freely. How are you sure about it? Because the state is protecting. You understand that? If you remove the state from your life, how would be your life? Very miserable. Because you know there is police, there is army which is protecting you, and there is government which is coming up with schemes to help you. But agar ye sab kuch na rahe to, then it will be a very sorry condition. Do you understand that? और थॉमस ओ बिसिजी की बात कर रहे थे, स्टेट ऑफ नेचर, रिमेंबर, एंड इज सेइंग दैट फ्रॉम स्टेट ऑफ नेचर इफ यू वांट टू कम आउट, व्हाट डू वी नीड? अ सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. गॉट इट? इन द लास्ट क्लास वी डिस्कस्ड अबाउट इट. सो राइट डाउन. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, स्टेट एंश्योर्स द वेलफेयर ऑफ द सोसाइटी. State ensures the welfare of the society and protects the rights of the citizens, from external and internal dangers. Protects the rights of the citizens from external and internal dangers. Okay. So now I am giving you a standard definition for state, जो आप एग्जाम में भी यूज कर सकते हो. वैसे ये भी लिखोगे तो भी अच्छा है, और हमेशा याद रखना वर्केबल डेफिनेशंस लिखना, रट के कुछ भी लिखने की कोशिश मत करना. स्टेट रिक्वायर्स 4 थिंग्स. व्हाट आर दे? पॉपुलेशन, टेरिटरी, गवर्नमेंट एंड, वेरी गुड, लिखो, एक स्टार बनाकर लिखो, चेंज द इंक एंड राइट दिस. दिस इज स्टैंडर्ड डेफिनेशन. अ कम्युनिटी ऑफ पर्सन्स, put a comma, permanently occupying a definite territory, put a comma, legally independent of external control, and possessing an organized government, which creates and administers law, over all the people, within its jurisdiction, is what? Is state. Okay, just read that statement that you have written. Does that make sense to you now? Just go through that statement. चारों चीजें satisfy हो रही हैं? ठीक है? Does that make sense to you? Okay, very good. Now give a small subheading now. Elements of a state. Elements of a state. So there are four basic elements of a state, and they are population, territory, organized government, and sovereignty. Okay, and Indian scholars and philosophers like Kautilya and other political philosophers, they also understood the importance of all of them. You understand that? In fact, much before the West understood it, because Kautilya is nearly 1000 years before Niccolo Machiavelli. So you get it? So Kautilya says, now look here, he says, जनसंख्या, क्षेत्र, शासन और संप्रभुता चाहिए. मतलब क्या हो गया? State. जनसंख्या means population, क्षेत्र means territory, शासन means government, and samprabhuta means sovereign. Clear? So write down an opening line. There are four basic elements of a state. There are four basic elements of a state. Put a hyphen after that and then write as A, B, C, D. A, population. Population. For your personal reference and to mention Kautilya if you want to in the answer sheet, in bracket you write Jansankhya. You can write in anglicized script, English, जनसंख्या. मतलब देवनागरी में लिखने की जरूरत नहीं, ये क्या? जनसंख्या. Close the bracket. Put a hyphen and write. It refers to a sizable group of people. It refers to a sizable group of people living within a definite territory. Sizable group of people living within a definite territory. Second, B, territory. Territory. Kshetra. Put a hyphen and write. It refers to a definite geographical area. It refers to a definite geographical area on the surface of the earth. Definite geographical area on the surface of the earth on which the population resides. On which the population resides. Okay, what kind of geographical area makes a territory? Only land or land and water both? And airspace. Do you understand that? So in bracket you can write land, water and airspace. Land, water and airspace. Then C is government. You can just write government or organized government, whatever you want to write. You can just write government, that is Shasan. Okay, put a hyphen and write. It is an agency or political organization. It is an agency or political organization that makes laws and carries out the administration of the state. Carries out the administration of the state. Put a full stop. It is the agency. It is the agency through which people can express agency through which people can express their collective will. People can express their collective will. And the last one, right? Sovereignty. Sovereignty. Sovereignty, in bracket you can write Samprabhuta. It means you are your own Prabhu. Okay, that is Samprabhuta. 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 Okay, close bracket. Put a hyphen. It refers to independent existence. It refers to independent existence. देखो सॉवरेंटी का सिंपल मीनिंग है और वो ये है दैट वी आर नॉट सब्जेक्ट टू एनी आउटसाइड कंट्रोल. वी आर इंटरनली supreme and externally free. Then we are sovereign. Do you understand that? It means our own reign. We are not a dominion, nor a dependency, nor a colony of anybody. We are a sovereign state. Got it? Put a full stop and continue. It means the state is supreme. It means the state is supreme over all individuals. It means the state is supreme over all individuals and associations. All individuals and associations. And it is free from any other, and it is free from any other external control, any other external control. Put full stop. It is internally supreme and externally free. It is internally supreme and externally free. अच्छा एक बात बताओ, पॉपुलेशन भी है, टेरिटरी भी है, गवर्नमेंट भी है, but the government is not sovereign, it's dependent government. Do we have a state? No, we do not have a state. We have a colony of that country which holds power over this country's government. Do you understand that? So we are not a state. All these four conditions are necessary and sufficient to declare an entity as a state. The absence of any of it will nullify the entity from the category of statehood. समझाया? Make a star. Write this. It is important to note that all the four elements, it is important to note that all the four elements must be present together. It is important to note that all the four elements must be present together to form a state, must be present together to form a state. Put comma, the absence of any of the four elements, absence of any of the four elements will nullify the existence of a state, will nullify the existence of a state. ठीक है? अब देखो एक चीज, ऐसी चीजें मैं एनकरेज तो नहीं करता हूँ, बट जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग, ये रटने की तरफ नहीं जाना है हमें, रोट लर्निंग की तरफ नहीं जाना, बट यू कैन जस्ट हैव दिस एज द फोर एलिमेंट फॉर स्टेट. ओके, पॉपुलेशन, ऑर्गेनाइज्ड गवर्नमेंट, टेरिटरी एंड सॉवरेनिटी. ठीक है, तो कहीं मार्जिन में लिख सकते हो स्टेट. Yes, go on if you have a question. Yes. Hmm. Hmm. They are actually dominions technically still, but practically they are states. Do you understand that, dear? All those countries which still have Union Jack on their flags, they all are still dependencies or dominions. तो उनके लिए भी जो head of the state है वो English कोई नहीं है. You are correct in that observation. But technically है, practically तो सब independent है. Because it is rule of the people, democracy. समझ में आ गया ना? तो जो monarchy है वो constitutional monarch हो गए, absolute monarch अब और रहे. अब मुझे बताओ यहाँ तक कोई issue है समझने में? You understand what is a state? Let's now move to what is a nation. So give a heading, meaning of nation. Meaning of nation. Now look here. Remember when we were defining state, we said that state is an association of people by law. Nation is actually a community of people. It means it is a group of people who have one or more shared characteristics, and on the basis of that single or more than one characteristic, they feel a kind of identity, or they draw a common identity. That is a nation. ध्यान से सुनो फिर से. I'm saying nation is a community of people which are bonded together by the feeling of having one or more shared characteristics, and they draw their identity from those characteristics. Now this characteristics could be language, one language, or one religion, or one ethnicity, or having one culture, or one history. It could be anything. It could be a single thing or a group of things. But they feel they are one because they have something in common. Do you understand that? State is an association by law, but nation is an association by emotion. Do you get it? तो nation हो सकता है without having territory, without having government, without having a kind of sovereignty. Only thing you require to be a nation is a group of people or a population which has one or more shared identities or one or more shared characteristics on the basis of which they draw a common identity. So the difference between state and nation is that a state is an association of people by law, and it has four characteristics. It must have a population of its own, it must have a territory of its own, it must have a government, and that government should be a sovereign government subject to no outside control. Whereas nation is an organization or community of people who feel a kind of commonness because they have one or more shared characteristics, and on the basis of that they draw their identity. Do you understand that? So India was a nation even when before it became a state. Do you understand that? Because एक culture तो है ही हमारा, या common history तो है ही. Do you get it? Right on. A nation is a community of people. A nation is a community of people formed on the basis of one or more shared features, formed on the basis of one or more shared features, such as a common language, religion, history, ethnicity, culture, or society. देखो, state is a legal concept. Do you get it? Because it's an association of people by law. If there is no law, there cannot be a state, because the government itself is created by law. Do you understand that? So a state is a legal and political entity, whereas a nation is an emotional, spiritual, cultural entity. Do you get it? It's a psychological entity. There are so many people who do not have their territories still consider themselves as one nation. Do you get it? Right on. Common society means, say for example, the social norms are same for people, or the social structure is same. Do you get it? Like the social institutions are common, like the marriage institution or family institution, they are common. So they may feel a kind of likeness or commonality. Okay, right. आपने कुछ हेडिंग डाला क्या? एक हेडिंग डालो, डिफरेंस बिटवीन स्टेट एंड नेशन. Difference between state and nation. Yes, go on, dear. See, Afghanistan has a regime, and that regime, if it is independent from outside control, technically it is a state. Are the Afghans also a nation? Yes, of course they are a nation, because they have common history, common culture. So that's why Afghans are nation. Like say for example, are you aware about the Pashtuns? The Pashtuns are spread across Afghanistan and Pakistan. The northwest frontier province जो होता था, जहाँ से फ्रंटियर गांधी थे, खान अब्दुल गफ्फार खान, देखा है ना यहाँ पे मार्केट है, गफ्फार मार्केट, किसके नाम पे? उन्हीं के नाम पे तो है, खान अब्दुल गफ्फार खान. So this Pashtuns who are now spread over Afghanistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region, which is the KP province of Pakistan, okay, they consider themselves still as one nation. Do you understand that? That's why Afghanistan does not believe in the Durand line, क्योंकि उनका कॉमन कल्चर है. और एक मूवमेंट भी चल रहा है वहाँ पे, आई डोंट नो वेदर यू आर अवेयर अबाउट इट और नॉट, पश्तून तहफ़्फ़ुज़ मूवमेंट, PTM, which is wanting to form a Pashtunistan, which will have only Pashtun people and will have territories from present day Afghanistan and Pakistan. Do you get it? And obviously Pakistan treats this organization as a terrorist organization, whereas Afghanistan government supports this organization because it will have an extension of its territory. Do you get it? So technically we will say it is a nation as well as a state and a nation state. Got it, dear? Okay, लिखो. Difference between state and nation, bullet wise. First bullet, state is a political and legal concept. State is a political and legal concept. Full stop. In a state, law binds people. In a state, law binds or laws bind people या law binds people. कैसे भी लिख सकते हो. In a state, laws bind people. Put a full stop. It creates political unity imposed by law. It creates political unity imposed by law. Imposed by law. Put a full stop. A state must be sovereign. A state must be sovereign. Put a full stop. Next point. Nation is a spiritual. Nation is a spiritual. psychological, emotional, or cultural concept. Spiritual, psychological, emotional, or cultural concept. Okay, look here. In a state, law binds people. In a nation, what binds people? Emotion of what? Oneness. समझ में है? It binds people. And this oneness का ये emotion कहाँ से generate होता है? On the basis of the shared features. This could be one or more. Do you get it? So put a full stop and continue that point. In a nation, feelings of oneness bind people. In a nation, feelings of oneness bind people. Put full stop. It creates an eternal unity. Eternal unity that comes from within. That comes from within. Okay, you tell me one thing. Is it necessary to qualify as a nation? You must have a sovereign government. Sovereignty is no prerequisite to be considered as a nation. ठीक है ना? लिखो, put a full stop and write. A nation may or may not be sovereign. A nation may or may not be sovereign. देखो, स्टेट के केस में एकदम ऑब्जेक्टिव क्राइटेरिया है. 4 कंडीशन फुलफिल करो, स्टेट बन जाओ. कौन से 4 कंडीशन? पॉपुलेशन, टेरिटरी, ऑर्गेनाइज्ड गवर्नमेंट एंड सॉवरेनिटी. और नेशन के केस में क्या है? कुछ भी कॉमन निकाल लोगों के बीच में और वो बन गए नेशन. जैसे ऑल फ्रेंच स्पीकिंग पीपल आर फ्रेंच, ऑल जर्मन स्पीकिंग पीपल आर जर्मन, ऑल इंग्लिश स्पीकिंग पीपल आर इंग्लिश. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड? Yes, go on if there is a question. Those who are attending the class online, please make sure that you keep your microphone in mute when you're not asking a question, because it creates unnecessary. Yes, do you have a question? Do you have a question? If you do not have a question, please ensure this, that you keep your microphone in mute, because it creates unnecessary disturbance here in the class. Okay, and this is also for the sake of everybody, because देखो हम एक बहुत ही important examination की तैयारी कर रहे हैं, है ना? और ये बहुत serious examination है, ये time pass नहीं है. तो अगर आप सोच रहे हो कि आप नहीं interested हो तो आप छोड़ के जा सकते हो क्लास को. मतलब I am not here to ensure कि आप सब पढ़ के IAS बनो. आप खुद हो यहाँ पर बनने के लिए. I am the facilitator. Do you understand that? And I'll be with you till such time you are with yourself. इसलिए कोशिश करिए कि आपके किसी भी डेरिलेक्शन की वजह से किसी को डिस्टर्बेंस ना हो लर्निंग. गॉट इट? चलो लिखते हैं. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. अ स्टेट हैज 4 डेफिनेट एलिमेंट्स. A state has 4 definite elements. Put a hyphen and write population, territory, government and sovereignty. Population, territory, government and sovereignty. Put a full stop. A nation does not have any definite elements. Nation does not have any definite elements. Put a comma. It can be crafted around. It can be crafted around one or more common identities. Crafted around one or more common identities based on language, ethnicity, religion, culture. Okay. Language, ethnicity, religion, language, ethnicity, religion, history, culture, etc. History, culture, etc. अच्छा, अब बताओ, do you understand the difference between state and nation? Is this thing clear? Let's now try to understand this hybrid thing, which is nation state. अब अगर आपको नेशन भी समझ में आता है और स्टेट भी समझ में आता है तो नेशन स्टेट तो बड़ा आसान हो गया समझना, because all those nations which have a definite territory, population, government and enjoy sovereignty are nation state. Do you get it? समझ में आई बात? So give a heading, meaning of nation state. Meaning of nation state. Meaning of nation state. Under this you write, the nation state is an entity in which, the nation state is an entity in which people with a common identity live, in which people with common identity live. People with a common identity live within a specified geographic territory. Within a specified geographic territory. Under a sovereign government. Under a sovereign government. Put a full stop. A nation becomes a nation state. A nation becomes nation state when it attains statehood. When it attains statehood. ठीक है, अब एक चीज देखो, ध्यान से देखो, यहाँ पर all states might not be nation. All nations might not be states. Similarly, a state could be much bigger than a nation. Similarly, a nation could be bigger than a state. अभी कैसे हुआ, ध्यान से क्या कह रहा हूं मैं? All states might not be nations. Second, all nations might not be states. Third, states could be larger than nations. And fourth, nations could be larger than state. Let's try to understand all of that with the help of examples, shall we? Okay. So the first one is all states are not nation. Let me take you to the time of the early 20th century when the World War I is in full flow. So there is a state called the Austria-Hungary Empire. It's a state, also known as the Habsburg Empire. It has all the four things which are necessary to qualify it for state, like population, territory, organized government and sovereignty. Do you understand that? But it was not a nation. Why? Because there are two different kind of nationalities there, Austrians and Hungarians. Do you understand that? So it was not, so all states are not nation. Similarly, all nations are also not state. An example of this could be the Kurds. The Kurds are spread over different countries. Like say for example, some of them are found in Iran, some of them are found in Iraq, some of them are found in Syria. A small population also lives in Jordan or somewhere. The Kurds they believe themselves as a nation. Do you understand that? But they do not have a definite territory or government with sovereignty. That's why they are not a states, but they are a nation. Similarly, as I told you about the Pashtuns or the Balochis, they also consider themselves as nation. Balochs are spread over Pakistan and Afghanistan, and there is a movement called the Balochistan Liberation Movement, which is going on there for the making of that state. Do you get that? State could be much larger than nation. I hope you are aware about an existing erstwhile state called USSR, Soviet Russia. Soviet Russia was a combination of more than 15 nationalities. Do you get that? जो आज ही आप सेंट्रल एशियन रिपब्लिक्स देखते हो, कौन से तुर्कमेनिस्तान, कजाकिस्तान, उज्बेकिस्तान, ये सब किस में थे? रशिया में थे, सोवियत रशिया में. So state is much larger than nations. There are so many nationalities in it. अच्छा, आपको ये पता है नॉर्थ कोरिया और साउथ कोरिया, this is the Korean nation, but they are divided into two states. So nation could be larger than the states. So again I am repeating, all states are not nations. Like say for example, the Austria-Hungary Empire during the early part of 20th century was a state, but it was not a nation because it had two nationalities, Austrians and Hungarians. Then all nations are not states. Why? Because say for example, the Kurds, which are spread over Iraq, Iran and Syria, they are not a state, but they are a nation. State could be much larger than nation. USSR, which was a big state holding large number of nationalities, and nation could be larger than state. For example, the Korean nation larger than the two states of North Korea and South Korea. समझ में आई बात? Now I have a question for you. What is India? What is India? अच्छा एक बात बताओ, फ्रेंच बोलने वाले सारे मिलकर फ्रांस बना लिया, ठीक है, इंग्लिश बोलने वाले सारे मिलकर इंग्लैंड बना लिया, ठीक है, जर्मन बोलने वालों ने जर्मनी बना ली, इटालियन बोलने वालों ने इटली बना ली. बट यहाँ क्या हो रहा है? बंगाली बोलने वाला भी इंडियन है, पंजाबी बोलने वाला भी इंडियन है, मराठी बोलने वाला भी इंडियन है, भोजपुरी बोलने वाला भी इंडियन है, तमिल बोलने वाला भी इंडियन है. कैसे हो रहा है? तो इंडिया क्या है? इज इट अ नेशन स्टेट? अच्छा, बहुत लोग कहते हैं दैट द ब्रिटिशर्स मेड इंडिया इनटू अ नेशन. इज इट ट्रू? इट इज नॉट ट्रू. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? बिकॉज नेशन क्या है? एक कल्चरल कॉन्सेप्ट है. इंडियन कल्चर तो सेम है ना, चारों तरफ आप देख लो, इंडियन नेस सेम है. ये यूरोपियंस को नहीं समझ में आता है कि कैसे हो सकता है कि तेलुगु बोलने वाला, हिंदी बोलने वाले सब साथ में कैसे रहते हैं. नहीं समझ पाते वो इस चीज को, क्योंकि वो तो लड़ मरे वहां पर, उन्होंने बना लिया अपना अपना कंट्री. बट वी आर अ कल्चरल नेशन. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? बट we became a nation state after independence. You get that? Because when we got our sovereign government, before that we were a colony of Britain. Do you understand that? But we were always a nation. देखो, there is mentioned in the scriptures, also in the olden Upanishads also you will find this, that the land is always referred to as Bharat. Do you understand that? And it is referred to as, it is described as Uttaram yat samudrasya himadraschaiva dakshinam varshatad bharatam nama bharati yatra santati. It means north of the ocean, south of the Himalayas is the land of Bharat, and the inhabitants of that are Bharatiya. Do you understand that? So India has always been a nation. ये colonial वो है, narrative है, बताना कि आप nation नहीं थे, हमने आपको nation बनाया, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं. ठीक है? We were always a nation. Got it? In fact, when we were making cities with extensive drainage patterns, they were still roaming in jungles. Got it? Bullet wise you write, first bullet, a state may not always be a nation. Yes, go on. That depends upon the constitution and how the constitution gives that. A dual citizenship means citizenship of the center as well as citizenship of the states, like it happens in United States of America. That is dual citizenship. And holding citizenship of India along with any other country, that is multiple citizenship. Multiple citizenship still makes you a political entity. Dual citizenship also makes you a political entity, but it depends upon the constitution, whether the constitution gives permission for that. It has no connection with state or nation as such. Okay, you can always identify yourself with any nation. अच्छा एक बात बताओ, जो 100 साल पहले इंडिया से माइग्रेट कर गए थे यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका में, तो है तो वो आज भी पीपल ऑफ इंडियन ऑरिजिन, कल्चरली तो वो अपना रूट नहीं अलग कर सकते. हाँ, हो सकता है उन्होंने अपनी लैंग्वेज बदल ली हो, उन्होंने अपने रहने का ढंग बदल लिया हो, बट कल्चरली तो वो यही इंडिया के ही है. You understand that? That's why we refer to them as people of Indian origin. Or think about the Afro-Americans. Do you get it? So nation तो वो रहेंगे फिर भी, but state जब बनेंगे, citizenship is a concept of state, dear. Got it? Because it's by law. Citizenship is by law or by just ऐसे ही हवा हवाई guarantee. It is by law. There is an act called the Citizenship Act, and there is a part of the Constitution called citizenship. Article 5 to 11 deals with citizenship. Clear? Is that thing clear, Diana? Okay, please write down. A state may not always be a nation. Put a hyphen against it and write, for example, before World War I, Austria-Hungary was a state, but not a nation. Was a state, but not a nation. In bracket you can write nationless state. Nationless state. तो इंडिया में कैसे हो गए इतने सारे लैंग्वेजेस एक नेशन? क्योंकि भैया सिर्फ लैंग्वेज ही नहीं होता, बहुत कुछ होती है. It could be culture, it could be ethnicity, it could be religion, it could be anything. So we all have a common culture, the Indian culture. That's why we are a nation, and the people outside India has always referred to us as one nation. Do you get it? So write down. Next point. A nation may not always be a state. A nation may not always be a state. For example, the Kurds. Who share a unique language. And live in countries. Like Iraq, Iran, Turkey, and Syria. Put a semicolon and write Balochis, B-A-L-O-C-H-I-S, Balochis living in Pakistan and Iran. Balochis living in Pakistan and Iran. In bracket you write stateless nation. Iran, not Afghanistan, Iran. That is Pashtuns. Pakistan and Iran. In bracket you write stateless nation. Close the bracket. Next you write a state may be larger than a nation. State may be larger than a nation. Third point is a state may be larger than a nation. State may be larger than a nation. Put a hyphen and write for example, erstwhile. Erstwhile means then existing. Erstwhile USSR was a state in which various nationalities lived. in which various nationalities lived. And next one, right? A nation may be larger than a state. A nation may be larger than a state. Put a hyphen and write, for example, the Korean nation spread over 2 states. For example, the Korean nation spread over 2 states. Viz dot, viz dot, it means namely, put a hyphen, North Korea and South Korea. देखो कई बार एक स्वीट कॉम्बिनेशन बनता है that national boundaries and cultural boundaries, national boundaries are political boundaries, national boundaries and cultural boundaries are same for a nation state. बहुत rarely बनता है ये. One good example is Japan. ठीक है, क्योंकि वो island है. तो write a note. Sometimes the cultural boundaries and the political boundaries, sometimes the cultural boundaries and the political boundaries are same for a nation. Sometimes the cultural boundaries and the political boundaries are same for a nation state. ऐसे कर लो, for a nation state. For example, Japan. अगर आप इंडिया का मैप उठाकर देखोगे for the last 1000 or 2000 years, you will find that the map kept on changing. Do you understand that? But India, the idea of India always remained. India remains a nation. Do you understand that? So write another note and write, throughout history, irrespective of its political status, India has always been a cultural nation. India has always been a cultural nation. ठीक है? Put a full stop and write, India became a modern nation state after independence. India became a modern nation state after independence. India became a modern nation state after independence. Okay, yes, go on dear. Mm-hmm. Hmm. 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 That is a separatist group. They're fighting for a separate state. Got it? But it is recognized by the government of India as a terrorist organization, and there are so many kind of evidences also where we have seen that foreign entities, especially the Pakistani ISI, has funded this entire movement. और ये हुआ था General Zia के दौर में. And what happened was, with the liberation of Bangladesh, Pakistan made a new policy, और उन्होंने ये बोला, आर्मी जनरल्स ने बोला कि हम बांग्लादेश अपने पड़ोस में बनाएं. And that's how terrorism started in Punjab in the 80s. Got it? But the Khalistan that Pakistan support does not have Lahore. Do you understand that? पंजाब तो पूरा होना चाहिए ना, फिर उधर वाला कहाँ है? समझ में आया? तो उससे surreptitious motives समझ में आ जाते हैं. But anyhow, any Khalistani movement is anti-constitution. Why? Because the Indian constitution says that we have to work for unity and integrity of the nation. Integrity is a territorial concept. Secession की बात करना भी anti-constitutional है. Do you get that? So they are neither a nation nor a state as far as the Indian stance is concerned. Do you get that, dear? Ethnicity means racial origins, same race. Okay, the same thing. Okay, so just flip your pages. Whatever we have covered so far in the class, if you have any doubts, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll move to the next topic. Just flip your pages and find out if there is any doubt. सब कुछ समझ में आ रहा है? नेशन क्या है, स्टेट क्या है, नेशन स्टेट क्या है? All nations are not state, all states are not nation, nations could be larger than states, states could be larger than nation. समझ में आ रहा है सब कुछ? Very good. Yes, go on. A social aspiration would be to have a comfortable life. Got it? Where there is no distinction on the basis of caste, color, religion, etc. That could be a social aspiration. An economic aspiration would be to have employment. So all of this is possible only through the constitution. Without law, it is not possible. Yes, citizenship. Citizenship. Also your nationality. Okay. So what is the difference between a citizen and or citizenship and nationality? बस यही और कुछ नहीं. It depends on where you are. जब आप इंडिया में होगे तो you are an Indian citizen. अब abroad travel करोगे तो you become an Indian national. Do you understand that? You continue to remain an Indian citizen there also, but you identify yourself as an Indian national. They would say Indians. It means Indian national. Indian citizen थोड़ी ना बोलते हैं. Do you get that? Nationals जब हम बोलते हैं तो assume करते हैं कि वो citizens भी हैं. But citizenship is a political thing. Got it? And it's a legal thing which comes out of the constitutional document. Okay. So the next topic that we'll cover is the types of states. जैसे आपको कुछ तो मैंने कल ही बता दिया था, मोनार्की, ओलिगार्की, डिक्टेटरशिप, डेमोक्रेसी, तो और भी क्या क्या होते हैं आज हम देखेंगे. थियोक्रेसी भी बताया था मैंने. So we'll cover all of that. Okay. So give a heading. Types of states. Types of states. Deriving authority from the people could be directly deriving or indirectly deriving via representatives. यही होता है इसका. Okay. Monarchy is the first form of state. Okay. So what is monarchy? Actually, in a monarchy, there is a single monarch. Now the monarch could be a king, could be queen, could be an emperor or empress. Got it? Generally is referred to as the crown. Like after the revolt of 1857, what happened? Crown rule was established in India. Before that, what rule was there? English East India Company का rule. समझ में आया? एक और प्रूफ कि इंडिया वाज अ नेशन, क्योंकि उन्होंने इंग्लिश ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी क्यों बनाई? कुछ और भी तो बना सकते थे. ईस्ट राजस्थान कंपनी, ईस्ट महाराष्ट्र कंपनी, कुछ भी बना सकते थे. क्या बनाया उन्होंने? ईस्ट इंडिया. So again they saw the country as one nation. So monarch or monarchy means a kind of state in which there is one king, queen, emperor, empress, generally referred to as the crown, who enjoys all the powers. Do you understand that? All the powers means legislative powers, executive powers, judicial powers, military powers, administrative powers. In fact, military and administrative powers are sub powers within the executive powers. Do you get it? So that is a monarchy. Now monarchy also could be of two types. One is the absolute monarchy, and then there is the constitutional monarchy. Absolute monarchy means there is no law above the monarch. Absolute monarchs can turn into dictators as well, autocrats as well. So you will see this autocratic monarchy of France inspired the people to go into a revolution against the English or against the French king. Do you understand that? Autocracy matlab strong authority. Authoritarianism means autocracy. Do you get it? Constitutional monarch means he is just the symbolic head. Real powers are with the people who exercise this through the parliament. So the English queen or now the English king, they are what? Constitutional monarch. Do you understand that? And in Britain exists what? Parliamentary supremacy. Do you get it? So there are two kinds of monarchs, absolute and constitutional. ये कौन से हैं? Real monarch. और ये कौन से हैं? Symbolic. नाम के राजा. समझ में? Monarchy first. Monarchy. You can just write bullet wise monarchy. A monarchy is a form of government in which a monarchy is a form of government in which a person, put a comma, the monarch. A monarchy is a form of government. Monarchy is a form of government in which a person, put a comma, the monarch, put a comma again, is head of state, for life, or until abdication, abdication, abdication मतलब आपने छोड़ दिया. ठीक है? Put a full stop and write the political legitimacy and authority. The political legitimacy and authority of the monarch. Legitimacy and authority of the monarch may vary from restricted and largely symbolic, in bracket you write constitutional monarchy, close the bracket, to fully autocratic, in bracket you write absolute monarchy, close the bracket, and can span across, SPAN, span across executive, legislative, and judicial domains. Got it? So that is monarchy. In a monarchy there is king, queen, emperor, empress, जो भी है इनका ही रूल चलता है. वो एब्सोल्यूट भी हो सकते हैं या तो फिर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल भी हो सकते हैं. आज की दुनिया में आपको क्या लगता है ज्यादा क्या है? कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल मोनार्क्स Absolute monarchs nahi rahe. Got it? The second type of state is oligarchy. Oligarchy. Now, in a monarchy, there is one person, king, queen, emperor, empress, etc. In an oligarchy, there is a small group of people who rule the country and they have all the powers. Executive, legislative, judicial, military, administrative, all kinds of powers are with them. Do you get it? Now, this small group could be, say, nobility, could be the members of the royal family, could be people who hold wealth, could be people of religion, could be anything. Do you understand that? But this small group of people, they hold all the power in the country. So, instead of one man, there is a small group of people. It could be on the basis of a particular tribe, particular race, particular language, particular religion, anything. Do you get it? That is oligarchy. Right on. Present day, there are no such examples of oligarchy, but in the olden times, there were many oligarchs. Okay, like the Mongols for some time, they ruled as oligarchy. Okay. So, right on. Oligarchy is a conceptual form of power. Oligarchy is a conceptual form of power structure, in which power rests, with a small number of people, The full stop and write, such as, comma, nobility, rich merchants, religious leaders, military, educated people, etc. etc. Okay. Now, you tell me one thing, that in a democracy, the power to rule, the government's power to rule or authority to rule is derived from where? The Constitution. And the Constitution derives its authority from where? People. That's how it is democracy. Do you understand that? In a monarchy, from where they get the power? Authority. Divine intervention mostly. Do you understand that? So, like King John, before he was signing the contract, or when he was defeated by the barons, before that he made a statement. He said, I did not make myself king, God did. So, if you go against me, you are going against God. Do you understand that? The third type of state is theocracy. Theocracy. Now, what is a theocracy or a theocratic state? In a theocracy, it is believed that the state belongs to God, or the state belongs to one deity or a group of deities. It could be anything. Got it? And the government is the representative of that deity. Hence, the government should rule the country as per the scriptures or the religious texts. Do you get it? That is a theocracy. Do you get it? That is a theocracy. Right on. Theocracy. It is a form of government in which one or more deities, DEITIES, one or more deities are recognized as supreme ruling authorities, are recognized as supreme ruling authorities, giving divine guidance, giving divine guidance to the government formed by the humans, guidance to the government formed by the humans, who manage the state's daily affairs, who manage the state's daily affair, or manage the state's daily affairs. Full stop. ठीक है. Next is autocracy. Autocracy. अब ये आपको ऑलरेडी पता है. Remember authoritarian government? Authoritarian governments establish autocracy. In an autocracy, political plurality is rejected. जैसे single party rule or a single ideology will rule and no other party or political ideology will be given any space. And as the name suggests, the autocrat uses strong authority like police or military or political police to curb the rights of the people. Do you understand that? That is an authoritarian regime or an autocratic regime. और आपको पता है constitutionalism ना हो तो ऐसा हो सकता है. तो लिखो next, autocracy. It is a form of government. It is a form of government that rejects political plurality. It is a form of government that rejects political plurality and uses strong authority or force, and uses strong authority or force to govern, which severely reduces or completely destroys, which severely reduces or completely destroys the rights of the people, the rights of the people. ये भी हमने कल देखा हुआ है. Totalitarian state. A totalitarian state is one which has total control over your life, public life as well as personal life. आप क्या खाएंगे, क्या पहनेंगे, कौन सा रिलीजन फॉलो करेंगे, आप कौन सी नौकरी करेंगे, आप कब शादी करेंगे, how many kids, everything is determined by government. That is totalitarian regime. Do you understand that? Complete control over your life. देखो, totalitarian state. A totalitarian state, or ऐसे कर लो, it uses its authority to completely control all aspects of an individual's public and private life. All aspects of an individual's public and private life. Put a full stop. Such governments have an unnecessary interference. Such governments have an unnecessary interference in the lives of the people. Such governments have an unnecessary interference in the lives of the people. Then the next one is dictatorship, which is also known as a despotic regime. Dictatorship is one in which there is a single person or a single party It could be one man dictatorship or one party dictatorship or one ideology dictatorship. They rule the country at their whims and fancies. The difference between monarchy or absolute monarch and dictator is that all monarchs carry royal blood. Do you understand that? But dictators might not carry royal blood. They might just come from the ordinary people as well. An ordinary man can also become a dictator when he tastes power. Do you get that? That's why Lord Acton, a famous British historian, has said, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolute. Okay? A dictatorship is it is a form of government. It is a form of government controlled by a dictator. Controlled by a dictator. In bracket you can write individual or party. Individual or party. Close the bracket. Who rules the country? Who rules the country at his whims and fancies. At his whims and fancies. At his whims and fancies. सारे डिक्टेटर खराब होते हैं क्या? कुछ डिक्टेटर अच्छे भी हो सकते हैं. Do you understand that? Ruling the country for the betterment of the people. And people do not know which way to go, but the dictator knows which way to go. Such dictators are known as despotic, benevolent dictators. ठीक है. और दूसरे जो होंगे वो होंगे maleficent dictators. One acting with bona fide intention, other one with malafide. ठीक है. Put a full stop and continue. Dictatorship can be benevolent or despotic. It means thinking about the good of the people. Benevolent or despotic. It means curbing the rights of the people. Next is democracy. Yes, go on. Yes, Ashoka. Ashoka is a benevolent dictator. समझ रहे हो? वो अपने पिलर एडिक्ट्स और रॉक एडिक्ट्स से क्या कह रहे हैं? कि I want people to do this and that. That's why he became a benevolent dictator. All the great kings of the past are benevolent dictators. You can think like that. Okay. अच्छा देखो, एक ही आदमी जो मोनार्क है वो डिक्टेटर भी हो सकता है. बिल्कुल हो सकता है. Do you get it? So this is like we are dividing it for the purpose of our understanding. A theocracy can also be an oligarchy, an autocracy, a totalitarian regime having dictatorial tendencies. समझ में आया? Democracy. Democracy क्या है? इसका मतलब क्या है? तो जो रूल होगा वो किसके पास होगा? लोगों के पास. The word demo comes from demography. It means population. Cracy means rule. So rule of the people is democracy. Democracy could be direct democracy or representative democracy. ठीक है? Direct democracy मतलब लोग खुद ही लॉ बना रहे हैं अपने लिए. Direct democracy कहाँ पॉसिबल है? जब कंट्री बहुत छोटी सी हो या पॉपुलेशन बहुत कम हो. You get that? इंडिया जैसी कंट्री में डायरेक्ट डेमोक्रेसी हो ही नहीं पाएगा. कौन सी पार्लियामेंट है जहाँ पे 140 करोड़ पीपल आके इकट्ठा हो जाए और बात करोगे तो कौन सुन पाएगा? ऊपर से लैंग्वेज भी सेम नहीं है. Do you understand that? So right now, it is a form of government in which the supreme powers, it is a form of government in which the supreme powers are with the people. It is a form of government in which supreme powers are with the people. Who may exercise it, directly. In bracket you write direct democracy, close the bracket, or indirectly. directly or indirectly. In bracket you write representative democracy. Representative democracy. Then comes republic. Yes, Switzerland. Switzerland is a direct democracy. Republic. Okay. Now what is a republic? Republic means that the head of the state will be an elected person and will come to office by election. It could be direct election, it could be indirect election. Do you understand that? So India is a republic because the head of the state, it means the Honorable President of India, comes to office not via succession but via election. Do you understand that? He is not selected or appointed, he is elected. Do you get it? That makes it a republic. Monarchy or republic में फर्क क्या है? That the person comes to office via succession. King is succeeded by the prince, so on and so forth. Succession, and remains in office till life or whenever he wants to give up the office. But in a republic, the head of the state come to office via election. It could be direct or indirect and holds the office for a fixed tenure, like in India for 5 years. Do you get that? और अगर कोई एब्सोल्यूट मोनार्क है वो कुछ गलत भी कर रहा है तो हम उसको हटा भी नहीं सकते, लेकिन प्रेसिडेंट को भी हटा सकते by way of impeachment, a procedure mentioned in the Constitution of India. And the ground of removal of president is violation of the Constitution. If the president violates the Constitution, then there is the quasi-judicial process of impeachment. More of it when we go to that section. Do you get it? समझ में आया फर्क? और मोनार्क कौन बनेगा? कोई रॉयल फैमिली का ही बनेगा, ये तो बन नहीं सकता मोनार्क. प्रेसिडेंट कौन बन सकता है? कोई भी. Do you get that? India has what kind of election for president? Direct or indirect? What about United States of America? Indirect. वो भी डायरेक्ट नहीं है, अभी तो हुआ है. Is it direct? You have to win electoral colleges, isn't it? देखो, republic. It is a state in which political power rests with the public. Political power rests with the public. Full stop. In a republic, all offices of the government, including the office of the head of the state, is open for all. Including the office of the head of the state is open for all. Full stop. The head of the state is always elected. Head of the state is always elected. In bracket you write directly or indirectly. Directly or indirectly. Close the bracket. In a republic, the head of the state is always elected. In bracket you write directly or indirectly. Close the bracket. In a republic. ठीक है, तो आज के लिए हम यहीं रुकेंगे. These are the 8 popular types of states: monarchy, oligarchy, theocracy, autocracy, totalitarian regime, dictatorship, democracy, and republic. What is India? Democratic republic. Do you understand that? So do you also understand the difference between state and nation? Do you understand what is a nation state? कोई पूछेगा तो बता पाओगे? देखो, पढ़ाई ऐसे करो कि वापस ना पढ़ना पड़े, तब तो हुई पढ़ाई, वरना तो फिर क्या हुआ, टाइम पास हो गया. क्लियर? सो वी स्टॉप हियर. यस, गो ऑन. चाइना वन पार्टी डिक्टेटरशिप है, वो कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी ही है. आप समझ लो, आप वहाँ पे जाकर बोलो कि मुझे किसी और पार्टी से लड़ना है, तो आपको जेल में डाल देंगे, नहीं लड़ सकते, कोई पॉलिटिकल पार्टी बना ही नहीं सकते आप। हाँ, and Xi Jinping, I hope you are aware about it, that he has declared himself as leader for life. It's a dictatorship. It's one party dictatorship, Communist Party of China, that is ruling that country. पहले वहाँ पे पॉलिटिकल प्लूरैलिटी हुआ करती थी, 1949 के कम्युनिस्ट रेवोल्यूशन के बाद से पॉलिटिकल प्लूरैलिटी खत्म हो गई, और वो सारे लोग जो कम्युनिज्म में यकीन नहीं रखते थे वो चले गए ताइवान। चैंग काई शेक जो उनकी गवर्नमेंट हुआ करती थी उस समय, तो माओ सेतोंग और चैंग काई शेक के बीच में लड़ाई हुई, माओ सेतोंग जीत गए और उन्होंने पॉलिटिकल प्लूरैलिटी ही खत्म कर दी पूरे तरीके से। क्यूबा में भी वही हुआ, रशिया में भी वही हुआ, रशियन रेवोल्यूशन के बाद वही हुआ। सो wherever you see that communist regimes have come to power, they have created one party dictatorship. Get that? That would be an example of one party dictatorship. Yes, to some extent autocratic bhi hai, to some extent, not to the extreme extent, but to some extent it is autocratic as well. China, one child policy क्या है? Totalitarian policy ही है वो, ठीक बोल सकते हो to some extent, practically functioning में, constitutional wise में, ठीक है, clear? So we end it here. Thank you very much. Yes, if there is a question, please go on here. Of course you can do. Of course, there's no harm in it, because what is the national language of India? There's no national language, but there are two official languages. What are they? Why? Because the parliament functions in these two languages, but all the languages are equal. Keep this thing in mind. ठीक है, किसी तरीके का language based distinction मत करना अपने में, ठीक है? All the languages of India are beautiful and they are equal. That's why they are known as Indian languages. You get it? But why Hindi has been chosen by the Constituent Assembly, and there is an article also which says to promote Hindi in all parts of the country, because maximum number of people speak Hindi. तो कम लोगों को एक भाषा सिखाना आसान हो जाएगा. Do you get that? And suppose there is a select group of people who speak a particular language, then to teach the entire country that language would be a more tedious task. So it's a practical thing, not any kind of say surreptitious designs in it. Otherwise, why a man like Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar would even entertain that? So if it has been incorporated, it has been incorporated after due deliberation. It's unfortunate, a lot of language politics has happened all across and all parties are responsible for it. Clear? हम यहाँ पर किसी भी political party के लिए बैटिंग नहीं करेंगे, ठीक है, समझ जाओ. हमारा सिर्फ कमिटमेंट एक ही डॉक्यूमेंट की तरफ है, वो क्या है? Constitution of India. That's it. Thank you very much.